A 2006 Takeuchi track loader. It's a TL130. I was having issues with it starting. Initially thought it was a bad ground because it sounded like and felt like the battery was dying, or it had a bad ground. It would crank, and then next time you tried it would crank slower and then slower and slower, and finally wouldn't crank at all. So charged the battery overnight and came back and it wouldn't crank at all. So thought maybe it was the starter. So placed the starter and still wouldn't crank. Good continuity on all the grounds, and turns out that it was the hydraulic coupling, and that was based on some information that I found in one of the Takeuchi Facebook groups. So thankfully there's some really knowledgeable people, and some folks have the same one, even though there's not many videos that you can find on Facebook. One of the reasons why I'm making this is any work that I do on this, I'm going to try to document it so that if anybody else has the same problem, it'll be easy to find. So obviously what I did is remove the HST pump, which is much easier than pulling the motor because the coupling itself sits on the flywheel inside the bell housing. In order to get the pump out, to do that, either you have to pull the motor, well, not the rear, it's on the front, right behind where your ankles would be when you're sitting in the seat, which is this yellow motor here. But it's a real pain in the ass because you can't get an Allen wrench to fit on these very easily. And if there is a way, I don't know how to do it. I've tried even this side here that doesn't have the flange, this flange right here on it, still couldn't get to that. So decided to just pull the kick plate that sits in front of the pump, which is what your ankles and calves would kind of rest against. So just 4 bolts to pull that off, and then the 12 Allen bolts that hold the bell housing against the motor. And that was pretty easy. The bolts to pull the coupler off the motor, on the other hand, are a real pain in the ass. I've got a 4-foot cheater bar that I got, and that went on the end of a 1/2-inch breaker bar, which is another 36 inches long. And it uses an Allen that I can't remember the size, and of course now that I'm looking for it, I can't find it. It's around here somewhere. I think I left it on the socket wrench that I was using after I got them broken loose. But I think they've probably got about 100 plus pounds of pressure, or they're torqued over 100 pounds, 100 foot-pounds, I guess. So the coupler itself obviously did not do very well. That's what it looked like when I took it out. There was, this piece was in here, but wherever it went. One of these spots. Anyway, that's where it was. When it fails, I don't know if you can see them way down there in the bottom, it heats up and just melts the rubber into little like rubber bearings and gum up the flywheel, which makes it seem like a seized motor. And I poured a little bit of penetrating fluid into each cylinder with the, through the injectors, and then diesel fuel as well, and put a breaker bar on the crankcase after removing all both belts, and put a heavy weight on that breaker bar which was a tip that I got also off of YouTube for letting it sit like that for a day or two. And I just, every day I'd come out and measure. And even after a week of having, it was about 75 pounds, about 6 feet out from the crank shaft, and it was still not going. So it's not a difficult job as far as access, but it is an absolute bitch to remove those 3 Allen bolts from the old coupling. And these things are pretty hefty. So hopefully that helps. I'll record another video once I get it running and explain the other starting issues that I was having with it. Hopefully after I get it running, I'll be able to put the new tracks and sprockets on that I also got for it. Oh, and new bushings for the connect. All right, hopefully this will help.